You let some girl come in between us?
You're a person.
You called me a thought?
Welcome to Unsolicited, where I make videos about things that nobody asked me to. The Love is Blind Season 5 finale premiered on Netflix this past Sunday, and it wrapped up the most insane season of the show yet. If you didn't know already, Love is Blind is one of Netflix's most popular unscripted originals, being viewed by tens of millions of people worldwide. Each season of the show focuses on a specific city and the single people within it who are quote-unquote looking for love. The men and women meet in these rooms called pods and go on dates through a wall, a concept that thrived in the 2020 pandemic when the show first premiered. The experiment begins with a series of speed dates. Eventually, contestants narrow it down to their strongest connections, and the show chooses select couples who get engaged and follow them on their journey from the pods to the altar. About a quarter of the couples on the show get married, and there are a few couples who are still married today. However, as the show has progressed, it's gotten worse and worse, and it's more obvious that these people aren't looking for love and marriage, they're looking for followers and brand deals. For one, none of the couples this season were compatible. They aired the show with only 2 couples, forcing us to sit through long, boring scenes. And then there's the disgusting events occurring behind the scenes that shed a bad light on Netflix and Kinetic Content, the company that produces the show. In this video, I want to recap season 5, give you my thoughts and opinions, talk about Renee's story being filmed from the pods to the altar, undergoing a toxic relationship only to end up being edited out of the show. And of course, we have to talk about the ongoing sexual assault and false imprisonment lawsuit against Netflix and Kinetic Content. But on a lighter note, let's get into this recap. First, there's JP and Taylor, you know, Mr. and I'm proud to be an American. In the pods, it was all sugar butt this and sugar butt that, but once they got from behind that wall, there was nothing but silence on JP's part.
It's crazy in here. Okay.
The whole time they're in Mexico, Taylor keeps saying, "This is awkward, right?" And she keeps trying to pull words out of him with no success. I thought maybe there was a language barrier. You know, I think JP only speaks red, white, and blue.
About our reveal meeting. Huh?
Why?
Because I felt like it was so awkward, and I was like, maybe he doesn't like me.
But JP ends up telling Taylor that the reason things are so awkward is because she wore so much makeup at the reveal that it threw him off, which is the strangest thing I've ever heard. What do you mean she wore so much makeup that it threw you off? Like, if you've never been with a baddie, just say that. You know what throws me off? That you dress in Star Spangled Banner every time I see you.
What changed after the pods then?
I feel like if you would have presented yourself like this, without any makeup, it would have been better.
At the reunion, JP opens up a little bit more and says that with all the cameras around, it made him nervous, which is why he wasn't talking. And Taylor was like, be so for real, because what about when the cameras weren't there? And we were all nervous to be on camera, so it's really not an excuse for turning into a mime.
I think that was an excuse because how do you ruin your whole entire relationship due to makeup?
Personally, I think that the whole makeup thing is just my personal preference, and that was probably a little bit my fault that I let that kind of get in the way of everything, and
Then we have Johnny and Chris. From what the show portrayed, Chris was pretty much 100% about Johnny in the pods, whereas Johnny was torn between Chris and Izzy. Johnny broke up with Chris in the pods to focus on Izzy until Izzy pulled the Uno reverse on her and broke up with her to go be with Stacey. After Izzy breaks up with Johnny, Johnny makes some not nice comments about Stacey to the other girls in the pods, saying that if he chooses her, they'll never last, she won't make him happy, and she ends up low-key being right. But Johnny's comments about Stacey kind of starts the beef between them. After Izzy breaks up with Johnny, Johnny tries to spin the block and go back to Chris, but Chris is like, no ma'am, I'm not gonna be the runner-up. And I was like, period, Chris. But turns out he was slightly weak in the knees and ends up dating Johnny when they return to the real world. And in the real world, at everyone's first reunion post-pods, Izzy confronts Johnny about her telling him and Chris conflicting things. He goes in on her, calling her sketchy, that's the word of the day, sketchy, and he doesn't let her explain herself whatsoever. Then Stacey jumps in with her unblended bronzer and attacks Johnny as well.
And I shed tears for you knowing that you were gonna get rejected.
Okay.
You're a person. And I feel bad for shedding a damn tear for you.
Flash forward to the reunion, we see that Izzy and Johnny have resolved their issues, and Izzy apologizes not for what he says, but the way he said it. And shockingly, it's revealed that Izzy and Johnny hung out after the show and even shared a kiss in Izzy's car, which is insane to me, especially after all the things he said about her. And in other shocking news, we discover that Chris actually ghosted Johnny after the party in Houston and cheated on her with another woman who he is now living with. I didn't know Chris had it in him. Like, I thought he was such a nice guy. I didn't know he had a little F-boy in him, but at least he's happy now, and it seems like Johnny is in a relationship as well. Moving on to Stacey and Izzy, who's surprised that they didn't work out, because I'm not. They come from two completely different backgrounds and tax brackets. Stacey's family has boohoo money, and Izzy has plastic plates and utensils in his house, as well as a lost and found with random girls' earrings. They were never gonna make it. Once her daddy said, yeah, Love is cool, but Love also likes to eat at a nice restaurant, Love wants to fly first class, I was like, yeah, nope. He was not going to be able to provide the kind of life for her that she's accustomed to living, the kind of life that her daddy has been bankrolling. And then to find out that he has a bad credit score was the icing on the cake. Like, oh, cute, you don't have money, but no credit either? Double homicide. And she was done. After their wedding, Stacey does seem open to them continuing to try and be in a relationship, but Izzy is over it. He says, if you're not ready now, then when will you ever be ready? He says he was watching the Titanic the other day and he really wanted a love like they had. And I don't know what he means, because it seems like he got exactly that, because in the movie, Jack didn't have no money either and Rose left that man for dead. So then we have Uche and Aaliyah. So Uche and Aaliyah made a connection in the pods and were starting to have deep feelings for each other. They start sharing information with each other, and Aaliyah tells Uche that she has cheated in the past. And Uche uses this as an opportunity to make Aaliyah feel like a horrible person. He says, oh, so you're a recent cheater. He asked Aaliyah if she told her ex that she cheated on him, and she said no, and for Uche that was the icing on the cake, and he proceeds to tell Aaliyah just how horrible she is. Mind you, Uche is going off on Aaliyah, knowing that he's got some pertinent information that he needs to share as well. After the conversation with Uche, Aaliyah is distraught, and she goes to cry on her best friend Lydia's shoulders. So Lydia is Aaliyah's best friend in the pods, and Lydia is always telling Aaliyah she sees herself in her, and Aaliyah is so much like her. And you want to know why Aaliyah is so much like her? Uche reveals that he has dated Lydia in the past, and this is obviously very shocking and earth-shattering to Aaliyah. She goes to talk to Lydia about it, they hug, and everything seems good, until Lydia starts telling Aaliyah way more information than she wanted to know about Uche. She tells Aaliyah his house is so cool, he has a Tesla, his dog loves me, he pees every time he sees me, blah blah. And then boom, she hits her with the we last hooked up 3 months ago. So the whole situation becomes too much for Aaliyah. She ends up leaving the experiment, and once again Uche gives her a lecture.
There was like a exchange of words between Lydia and I.
You let some girl come in between us?
This is when I really started seeing what kind of person Uche was. The way he constantly puts blame on Aaliyah without acknowledging his own faults. I don't know if it's the lawyer in him or he's just baseline horrible. He and Aaliyah end up meeting up for the first time back in Houston, and they talk about everything. Uche tries to paint the picture that Lydia is crazy, and still the conversation is mainly pointing to Aaliyah and how she should have never left the pods and blah blah blah. Despite this conversation, Aaliyah and Uche still try to date, but that did not work out. At the reunion, Aaliyah reveals that she didn't like the way Uche spoke to her. It was very condescending, and she learned that she just wasn't Uche's type.
He mentioned that I wasn't his type, his ideal type. And yeah, that was kind of hurtful too, because I was kind of like, I didn't care how he looked.
So it's giving colorist. I think I know exactly who Uche's type is, and it's definitely not this beautiful black woman, considering he was dating Lydia, but you know, to each its own. Uche is just horrible in general, and it seems like everyone knows this because none of the cast speaks to him, and he wasn't present at the reunion. He says he didn't go to the reunion because he had some kind of business engagement, and that may be true, but I'm sure he wasn't jumping for joy to have to come on TV and give us all the answers we need. Then we have Lydia and Milton, the only surviving couple of this entire trash season. I was so surprised that Milton even said yes at the altar, and even more shook to find out that they're still together to this day. Milton is so young. He was giving very much little boy at the wedding, asking the pastor if he should button his jacket or not. I felt like he shouldn't even been on the show to begin with. Like, you're only 24, get on Hinge, Tinder, something. And then the whole season, Lydia's complaining about how he doesn't clean and he leaves stuff everywhere. But the second that Milton wants to comment on something that Lydia did that he didn't like, she gets defensive. During their last date, Milton tells Lydia that he didn't like the way that she acted at the barbecue. She and Uche were having a conversation about their whole situation, and she blew up at him.
It's the last time you will see my
Milton was telling her that she needed to control her emotions better, and she got so upset and felt like Milton was attacking her.
And I'm sorry that I done things that you don't like, but that's me.
So after that, I thought they were going to be done, but I was proven wrong, and now Milton and Lydia are the golden couple of season 5. So let's just take a moment of silence for that. And with all the information that surfaced, it seems that Kinetic Content doesn't truly care about the well-being of the cast. For one, they allowed Aaliyah to be completely blindsided and put in such an uncomfortable situation. Somehow, magically, Uche and Lydia both applied and were casted to be on the show. And then the producers told them to keep their history a secret until they told them it was okay to do so, causing such unnecessary heartbreak for Aaliyah. Then we have Renee. Renee, the 32-year-old vet who was basically a background character this season, actually was engaged to Carter, 30-year-old construction worker, and they were filmed from the pods all the way up to the altar, but all of their scenes were cut. We even see Renee with her mom at the bridal shop wearing white, but they just pretend she's there to support the other girls. Renee did an interview on Natalie and Deepti's podcast Out of the Pods to share her untold story. So Renee met Carter in the pods and formed a connection. She and Carter kept it very light and did not get deep in the pods, which became an issue when she saw the red flags later. They fell in love. Carter proposed to Renee, they had the reveal and went to Mexico with the other couples. At the airport, Carter yelled at an employee because they asked him to put on a mask. Also in Mexico, Carter had a fight with a crew member at the cast party in Mexico over water. He was threatening violence, which was a red flag to Renee. This was not the only time that Carter would behave like this. He would frequently get angry to the point where they had to cut filming short multiple times. Renee started feeling unsafe. She didn't want to be alone with him. She was scared of him. Production allowed Renee to not stay at the apartment with him and only be around him when they needed to film, but they would not let her stop filming. Renee tried to give Carter the benefit of the doubt due to the unique situation. He kept saying this was the most stress he's ever been in, blah, blah, blah. Production kept encouraging her to stay with him and to give him a chance because there was only 2 couples, like they needed the content. She would be so nervous to bring up red flags with the producers that she started writing them down in a journal. The first red flag was obviously him arguing with the airport worker. The next red flag was they got their phones back after being in the pods. His phone wasn't working, and it turns out it wasn't working because he didn't pay the bill. He asked Milton to pay his phone bill. Milton was actually down to do it, but ended up not having to. He also had negative $500 in his bank account. He didn't have a credit card or credit. He also argued with a crew member because the money from the show wasn't in his account because he literally did not fill out the direct deposit forms. Renee also said that they never went on dates that were not set up by production. She said they went on one date and Renee thinks they dined and dash because she never saw him pay. Renee also tells the story about how she owned a gun. They live in Texas. She had 2 guns, one in her house, one in her car, and production specifically told her that they did not want Carter near the gun. So if they don't trust him around a gun, they think he's that dangerous, why would they encourage her to be around him?
Our last day that we filmed before our wedding, I knew I wasn't, I think we both knew we weren't going to be getting married. And he just laid it into me that I was trashy. He called me a thought. He was like, I would only marry someone that was like my mom and you're nothing like her. He told me that he gave me a chance in the pods. None of the other guys wanted me, but totally berated me, all on camera too. He was even like, I look at your body. You think that you're all hot. Then it wasn't until the next day I found out he had brought a girl to our apartment nights before that.
I think the fact of the matter is that Love is Blind does not provide the safe environment that they claim, and they don't protect their cast members. Renee says that she received a call 2 months before the show aired that she and Carter would be cut so she didn't have to relive what she went through. But in reality, it had to do with the current lawsuit against Netflix and Kinetic Content. Having a castmate stuck with a violent partner would not be a good look for a show that's already in hot water. There was another contestant who was not shown this season, but for very different reasons. Season 5 contestant Tran Dang is suing Netflix and the company Kinetic Content that produces Love is Blind for sexual assault and false imprisonment, as well as Thomas Smith, the man she was engaged to. According to Tran, she was aggressively recruited to be on the show and eventually agreed. She says during the pod portion of the show, she was sequestered away from the outside world without her phone, passports, wallet, and was kept filming for multiple days, up to 18 hours a day with limited food, but an endless supply of alcohol. She says production tries to get participants drunk so that they can say more striking things, leading for more interesting TV. In response to these allegations, Chris Cullen, producer of the show, basically said, it's a lie, she's lying. Tran and Thomas get engaged and go to Mexico in May of 2022, where Tran says that she was sexually assaulted by Thomas, who allegedly groped her without her consent, exposed himself nude to her, and repeatedly tried to make advances that she denied. Tran says that she reported this incident to an assistant producer who she claims gaslighted her and implied that what took place was her fault, that she didn't communicate properly. Tran also claimed that Thomas harassed her over the phone, an incident she also reported to producers with no action taken.
But everything that she did say that I read through the article is true. She expressed things on camera that everyone saw. And she said that she was uncomfortable and he was very pushy.
Tran ultimately decided to leave the show, and the producers made her film a final scene where she was told what to say. Chris Cullen said that at Love is Blind, they provide a safe space for contestants and they have round-the-clock psychologists available to them. Nobody's falsely in prison. They're all free to go as they please. But Tran is not the only past contestant to make accusations like this. If you remember, season 2 contestant Jeremy Hartwell proposed a class action lawsuit against Netflix and Kinetic Content for inhumane working conditions. According to Jeremy, participants are forced to work up to 20 hours a day, only being paid $1,000 a week, which equates to $7 an hour. He also had similar claims to Tran, saying that contestants are kept away from the outside world and are given an abundance of alcohol, but not enough hydrating drinks. This led to former cast members Nick Thompson and Danielle Rule to open up about their experience as well.
You're put in a hotel room and you don't have a key. You don't have access to water unless you want to drink it out of the faucet or the shower. We're all just sitting there not being fed on any kind of regular cadence, but definitely being fed a lot of alcohol. My body was just exhausted and dehydrated and hungry.
We didn't have any autonomy at all. Not only did they take our phones, they took our wallets, they took our IDs, they took our passports, all in the same instance, without telling us ahead of time this was going to happen.
And we were filming 18 to 20 hours a day. The only time we weren't being filmed was when the union crews swapped out for a new crew because they had met their maximum for the day.
You never see daylight unless you're allowed to use the bathroom, which is a trailer outside. They keep you in the state where you really have no idea how much time has transpired. It's one of those things where, looking back on it, if someone told me it was a month, I might have believed them.
So it's difficult in the moment to leave the show when you know that you signed a contract saying that you can be sued for $50,000 in damages.
There's definitely something shady going on with Love is Blind, and I think the truth will come out one day. I don't know how much life the show has left in it because, for one, this season sucked. And it's going to continue to suck for seasons to come. We're never going to have another story like Lauren and Cameron or even Brett and Tiffany. Moving forward, I highly doubt they're going to find genuine people who actually want to come on the show and find love. I also don't know how the show will survive these allegations because this is very serious. And for sure, there's a darkness surrounding the show. And maybe one day all the little skeletons will come out of the closet. We'll just have to see. But until then, that's it. That's the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. All things that YouTubers be telling people to do, and I'll see you next time. Bye!